Welcome back everybody to Saurus 001's channel, and today we are going to be comparing two RTSs, which is Real-Time Strategy Supreme Commander and Ashes of the Singularity. For those of you who are not familiar with the titles, Supreme Commander was released back in 2007 and Ashes of the Singularity was released in 2016. Why am I comparing two games that are practically 10 years apart, you may ask? Well, they are both real-time strategies and they both follow a similar futuristic robotic humans are destroying the galaxy sort of thing. So without further ado, let's get into it. From the minute you make planetfall in this game, you get an idea of the sheer scale of just how big these maps are. You are a tiny commander that lands on a beach somewhere, and you have to conquer this entire map with other commanders up against you. It takes ages to complete one of these games. It takes up to 2 hours in most cases, whereas Ashes of the Singularity only takes about 15 to 20 minutes in most games, and you can play them for a couple of hours, but generally your games are going to be rather short. Both games require the utilization of resources, managing your army, building production facilities, and going on a conquering rampage. To complete the game, you have to eliminate the enemy team, be that 4, 5, 6 players, however many players there are, you have to destroy all of them in order to win the game. With Ashes of the Singularity, they have, however, added an idea that says if you conquer certain nodes on the map, then you can also win the game by controlling the planet. But that's enough about that. Let's get into the actual gameplay and the mechanics therein. With Supreme Commander, you start with just your commander and you build your base from there. In Ashes of the Singularity, however, you start with a node, a base already, but you have an engineer to start building your base. If your commander in Supreme Commander dies, you have practically lost the game, even if it is not an assassination game. If your base dies in Ashes of the Singularity, similarly, you lose the game. You can still win if your commander dies in a Supreme Commander game, however, but you do no longer have your commander and you will have to rely on your engineers in order to survive and conquer the rest of the map, which is no easy task. In Ashes of the Singularity, if you lose your starting base, you have lost the game. You only get one starting base. You cannot expand your starting base, you can only have one. And if it gets destroyed, then it is taken off you and you lose the game. In both games, you'll be starting out with engineers and building your factories to start your production facilities. You will have to get resources to build your army. In Supreme Commander, the resources are metal and energy. In Ashes of the Singularity, it is similarly metal, but it's radioactives that you need as the secondary resource. It's not hard to put 2 and 2 together. More resources means a bigger army means better killing power means you can win the game much easier. Basic maths. Both games will allow you to continue to use resources even if you have none left in the bank. They will continue to build your buildings or your ships at a slower rate. Ashes of the Singularity requires you to conquer nodes. You conquer these nodes by approaching them with a small army and killing the protectors of the node. Then your army will capture that point, and it is only after this that you can actually start harvesting the resources by building the building that will harvest the resources on the node. In Supreme Commander, there is no such limitation. You can expand as fast as you can move. You can send an individual engineer to go and conquer the entire map if you wish. It probably won't work, but it's an option. Supreme Commander allows you to upgrade your metal extractors that are put down on the metal sources. Ashes of the Singularity only allows you to upgrade the node itself. A node upgrade will provide more resources, as will an upgrade to your metal extractors. Metal extractors need to be built in Supreme Commander as an upgrade, and they do take time to build. Then again, in Ashes of the Singularity, you also need to build the amplifier which goes on top of the node. All this means you will need to micromanage your resources in order to continually build your army and not get resource capped. If you get resource capped, your game will slow down significantly and other players will overtake you. Next up is combat, and I'm sure this is the moment that most of you have been waiting for. The combat in these games varies. The combat between Supreme Commander and Ashes of the Singularity are quite different. In Supreme Commander you have experimental vessels that are the endgame item. In Ashes of the Singularity you have dreadnoughts. I've got to say that if Supreme Commander took on an Ashes of the Singularity commander, the Supreme Commander would definitely win, hands down. There is really no competition between these two sets of units. The variety of endgame units in Supreme Commander is, well, supreme. The ones in Ashes of the Singularity, they're kind of pretty plain, and usually by the time you get to the endgame units in Ashes of the Singularity, the game's practically over anyway. I know, you're not going to see both of these armies facing up against each other because they're from two different universes, but if you were to put these armies up against each other, the Supreme Commander one would win hands down every time, no competition whatsoever. Just look at this thing, it takes out the air and it takes out the ground, and this other thing right here, it's got long range capabilities, torpedo targeting, sonar capabilities, radar capabilities. There's just so much better items in Supreme Commander than there is in Ashes of the Singularity, and that's just basically it. So that about wraps it up for this video. If you enjoy these videos, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.